So I literally thought of this video idea maybe 5 minutes ago, and I was like, okay, I have to do this video before I forget about it, and I think it'll be perfect for some like thriller recommendations and just to kind of review all the thrillers that I have literally ever read. Here we have my tier ranking system. So at the top, the first and best level is Changed My Reading Life, Altered Brain Chemistry. This is a 5 out of 5 usually, or a book that I just definitely recommend. I think about all the time and my life is different because of it. Next up is Definitely Recommend. This is like a 4-star, absolutely recommend. It was a great book. Third is Enjoyable But Forgettable. So this is a 3, you know, in the moment, I liked it. I may recommend it, but I don't ever think about it. Next up, it was It. This is like a 2 out of 5. I don't think I would recommend it. Last level is Not a Fan, wouldn't recommend. This is a 1 out of 5. I should have DNF'd it. So let's just jump right in. The first one on the list is The Last Thing He Told Me by, I believe it's Laura Dave. This was a Reese's Book Club pick, and I read this quite a long time ago. So I'm gonna go with Enjoyable But Forgettable because I remember at the time of reading it and right after, I was actually very happy with it and I recommended it. Now, if you were to ask me what even happened, I get like little glimpses, but I truthfully don't even know what happened. Next up is The Paris Apartment. This one by Lucy Foley, I'm gonna go with It Was I actually read this book in Paris, so it was very, you know, I was in my element, in the perfect environment, and still, I feel like it just wasn't that amazing. For a mystery thriller, I feel like I wasn't that thrilled. I wasn't on the edge of my seat. I did enjoy that, like, I think we get different POVs, or at least we get the truth from different characters, which I like because it's obviously not always the same story, and we get like glimpses of what's happening with different characters. I do think it is more of a mystery because you're kind of like, wait, this isn't adding up, like what's gonna happen? But for the thrilling aspect, it just wasn't all there. I found myself getting a little bored while I was reading it, so it was okay. A History of Wild Places. This is going to the top. This book, when I read it, I didn't absolutely even like, I don't think I rated this 5 stars, but I'm not gonna lie, I think about this book all the time. Essentially, it's basically like a cult type of book. It's giving Midsummer. If you guys have seen that movie with Florence Pugh and you loved it, you would absolutely love this book, especially during this time of year, like the fall season, where it's kind of more like cozy, mysterious. Those are the kind of vibes that you're looking for, and then I absolutely recommend this book. I think what stood out to me the most from it was just the fact that its setting was so enthralling. Like you're in the woods, but it's kind of like a cult, but you don't really know what to believe. I just remember when it all ended up happening towards the end, I was just like shell-shocked a little bit because I didn't think that that's what was gonna happen. It's basically a book about a woman who goes missing, and this guy, I believe he's like a news reporter, is trying to find her, and he like parks his truck right outside of these woods and he goes in, and then he goes missing. And then we kind of get a different storyline from a different woman's point of view, and that's all I'm gonna say because I'm telling you, you need to read this book. Like, just pick it up, especially during this fall time. I'm recommending it to everybody I know. Next up is Stone Cold Fox. This is definitely going in the definitely recommend. I really enjoyed this book. I didn't expect to. This one, I feel like maybe this time last year I saw it kind of floating around everywhere, and I primarily picked it up because of FOMO, and if you know me, you know I don't like feeling left out, so that's why I picked it up. But when I read it, I was actually very happy and satisfied with it. The main character, B, she's kind of like, not a scam artist, but she like does what she needs to do basically to get what she wants, and she like marries into this like wealthy socialite family, but she has like this big dark secret, or she herself is like a secretive person. I just really liked her, B, as a character. I feel like maybe the author wasn't even trying to make her super lovable, but I just thought she was so funny and entertaining, and she just made for a great character. And the cover is beautiful. I'm a sucker for beautiful covers, so definitely pick it up. Jar of Hearts. I'm gonna go with definitely recommend. What I will say about this one is definitely check your trigger warnings because it can be very graphic and disturbing. So before I even go any further, please check trigger warnings for this book. This woman, she's like a businesswoman, and she ends up in jail for like a murder of a woman's body who was like near her house in the woods. I feel like I loved 75% of this book, and it was super fast paced and it was gripping. it was graphic, which sometimes, in my opinion, for a thriller mystery, like that's sometimes what I'm looking for. Like I want to be slightly disturbed. This one does take it to a whole nother level, I will say that. But I feel like the last 15% was just kind of outrageous and a little bit crazy. So I didn't love that about it, but overall, I would recommend it if you want to find something that's going to slightly disturb you, especially during this time of year. The Last Housewife. This one is also going to go into the definitely recommend. When I first picked this book up, I honestly was not expecting too much, but this one's also giving cult, and this one is about a woman who was best friends with another girl in college, and then she finds out that the girl that she was best friends with in college died on campus by suicide. So it's a very sad story, but she wants to know what happened. She needs to know what happened. So she kind of is chasing the details and the information about her friend's murder, and things get very murky. There's like cults, there's men quite literally talking down and berating women. So trigger warning for that type of book as well. When I read this book, in my head, I could totally picture it being a movie. I just thought like the author did a really good job of kind of drawing you in and building this great plot essentially. And I would definitely recommend it for a good thriller mystery. The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. I'm gonna go with enjoyable but forgettable. In the moment, I actually didn't want to finish this book because I read it slowly because I didn't want to finish this book. But looking back, I don't ever really think about it, so it can be a little bit forgettable. The great things about Rachel Hawkins as a writer is that her stories are very fast paced. They're pretty straight to the point, short chapters. Like these are all things that I love in a thriller mystery that'll keep me on the edge of my seat. But quite frankly, it was a bit forgettable. And I feel like the type of story that it is, I think it's like a woman, I think she's like a dog walker in her neighborhood, and I don't know how she ends up in one of the people's houses. She like gets locked up in a room or something. I just feel like it's slightly overdone, the type of book that this is. If you've never read a book like that and there's like sort of like a mystery, someone I think ends up, like honestly I don't even remember. Like I feel like I'm making stuff up. So maybe read the back of this book. If it intrigues you, I would recommend it, but it might just be kind of forgettable. The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I read this one a long time ago, and I'm also gonna go with enjoyable but forgettable. This one is about a wedding that's taking place on like a deserted private island. So it's a very atmospheric read with a strong setting. It's on a private island. Even the first like chapter of the book is about the wedding guests getting to the wedding, and it's like super choppy waters, rainy, stormy, and we get several points of views in this book. It's a murder mystery. Someone ends up dead at this wedding, and we have to kind of figure out what happened, why, and throughout the entire book we get different characters' point of view. So if that's something you're interested in, then I would definitely recommend it. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't ever think about this book, but I did like it. Wrong Place, Wrong Time. Okay. I'm gonna go with definitely recommend, even though when I read this book, I rated it 5 stars. And the reason I did that was because I felt like it was just well written. This book is about a woman who wakes up or it's like the nighttime, and her son leaves the house and stabs a stranger on their front lawn. And she's like, what the heck? Like, this is so random. It's kind of like a Groundhog Day type of plot where the same day is being played over and over again. I read this like a year or two ago, so I don't remember exactly what happens, but that's kind of the basic synopsis. And to be honest, even listening to that, I would kind of be like, I don't know if that's my type of book, because I don't love Groundhog Day type of books. But this one did it really, really well. And I feel like it was actually compelling, and the plot twist, like I did not figure out. It did have me on the edge of my seat. It's more of a medium-paced thriller. It's not super fast paced, but I do still recommend it. I feel like it was well thought out, had a great plot, and it just was paced well, even though it's not super fast, so don't expect that going into it. The Maid, I'm gonna go, I don't want to put a book in the last column, honestly, because should I have DNF'd this book? No. I'm gonna go with It Was I didn't love it. By the time I finished reading it, I was like, okay, like I don't think I had to read it necessarily. I think it's about a hotel maid and something happens. That's all I can really tell you. This book is part of like I don't know how many, it's a series or a trilogy or a duology maybe, but I didn't even like this book enough to continue the like series. And that says a lot, because I'm the type of person who once I pick up a book in a series, like it's gonna freak me out and bother me if I don't continue it. But this one I really just kind of found no point because I didn't love it and I don't ever think about it. If anything, I kind of wish I didn't read it, which is sad to say. But I have heard this book has a lot of fans, so it's just my opinion. The Perfect Marriage. This one I'm gonna go with definitely recommend. Although I will say, when I read my boyfriend like the summary on the back or the synopsis, he gave me his guess as to what was gonna happen, and I was like, okay, cool. Read it. It was exactly what he said. So that was a little jarring, but other than that, I did enjoy this book because it's incredibly fast-paced, extremely short chapters, and the story itself is pretty compelling. It's about a wife and a husband who are married, of course, but the husband is cheating. He has a mistress. The mistress ends up dead, and the wife is actually a very successful defense lawyer who now has to defend her husband. She's gonna be his lawyer. So it's pretty messy. Alice Feeney's Rock, Paper, Scissors. I'm gonna go with it was I think I gave this maybe 3 stars, but honestly, once I read it, I don't ever think about it, and honestly I don't even really remember what happens. The biggest thing that stood out to me from this book was the setting. It takes place in a snowed-in like cabin, so if you're looking for one that's kind of giving like Winter Wonderland vibes but dark, I would recommend this. Maybe for like the winter, December time would be a great time to pick up this book. If you're a fan of Alice Feeney's writing and books, then definitely, you know, pick this one up. As far as it being one of those really popular thriller mysteries, I don't see why, and I would pass on it. I quite frankly don't even really remember what happens. I don't remember the plot. I do remember it's very puzzle-like and you have to like extract different pieces of information and kind of start building your own case in your head. And for me, that's kind of a lot of work. Little Secrets. This one, I'm gonna go with definitely recommend. I think I recently read this one like last month and it was just really good. This is the same author as Jar of Hearts, so you know, I'm a big fan of her work. Her name is Jennifer Hillier, I believe. And this one, again, super short chapters, which again, I love that. I need something that's gonna, you know, grab my attention and hold it. And short chapters usually does the trick. This one is about a woman and her son. They live in Seattle and they're going to like a Christmas market, and the woman answers a phone call with her son and she's like trying to do something at the same time, and by the time she hangs up the phone, her son is gone. He quite literally gets kidnapped, and the whole book is kind of taking place after that and trying to navigate her grief story. Of course, her husband is also, I believe, not being faithful to her, so there's a lot of things she's dealing with. There's a lot of things the husband is dealing with as well. So we kind of are placed in that time, and we're just kind of following our main characters, seeing what happens. She does hire like a private detective to try to figure out what happened to her son because there's no great leads or anything, and stuff just unravels. I will say, just like Jar of Hearts, I feel like the plot was really good. More so for Little Secrets, I feel like I just really loved the actual story. By the time the book ended, I thought it was completely solid. I don't think it was rushed at any which point. And honestly, I feel like the character was sort of relatable. If you have read this book, you're kind of like, what the heck? Because she does some pretty outrageous things. But when you like put your mind into her mind and you're trying to figure out, you know, the things that she has had to deal with, the things that she is currently dealing with, like you kind of understand her. And so I just applaud the author for making a sort of relatable character that you wouldn't expect to want to root for. The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I'm gonna go with definitely recommend. This one goes for the 3 books in the trilogy of the Housemaid series. I have read all 3 and I would absolutely recommend, mostly for like beginner thriller mystery readers. This trilogy will grab your attention, will keep you entertained, and will leave you satisfied at the end of it. Super short chapters, very fast paced. Frida McFadden is the absolute queen in that. She's just really good at doing what she does. In my opinion, I feel like it is a little bit predictable, a little bit not super advanced plot-wise compared to other thriller mysteries that I have read, but I still would absolutely recommend them, and I did enjoy them. The Sanatorium. This is a Reese's Book Club pick. I'm gonna go with enjoyable but forgettable, but I am going to say that the biggest thing about this book is the setting. It takes place in a hotel in the Swiss Alps, but of course the hotel that this couple is staying in has a very dark past. And so again, another, like Rock, Paper, Scissors. These two books are amazing to read in like the winter time if you're looking for a thriller mystery during that time, because you picture snow, you picture snowed in buildings, beautiful settings. Those are the two strongest things about those two books. The Sanatorium is a like murder mystery. Someone ends up dead in the hotel. Again, we have to figure out what happened. So it's that type of like whodunit, and if you enjoy those, you'll definitely like this one. I don't ever think about the plot itself, but I do think about the setting, because like I mentioned, that's like the biggest thing that stood out to me. Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. I'm gonna actually put this one in the second column. Def recommend. This book was very entertaining, and it was super, again, fast-paced. You're gonna hear me say that a lot because most thriller mysteries are, and honestly those are my favorite types. I need a book that's gonna just be like this for me. And this one is a great thriller mystery to read in the summertime because it takes place on a private island, like a deserted private island. We have this couple who is trying to like gather money, and they get hired. They have a boat, but they get hired by like a group of friends to take them to this island. So they're all there partying, and another boat is like already there. So they kind of make friends with this other couple that was already there. And then another like weird kind of smaller boat pulls up as well. So a lot of stuff happens with this group because, as you can like imagine, it's pretty dysfunctional, it's pretty chaotic. Again, Rachel Hawkins, she's the same author as The Wife Upstairs. I do recommend Reckless Girls over The Wife Upstairs. The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I'm gonna go with enjoyable but forgettable. In the moment, it was great. It's about a woman who like lives alone in this big lake house, and then across the lake there's a different lake house, of course, and like she starts to see some sketchy, suspicious stuff between the husband and the wife. That's kind of the main storyline. Again, this is one of those ones that towards the end it gets a little bit far-fetched. If you're into that, you're into that. I liked it in the moment, but I won't lie, I don't really think about it. Local Woman Missing. I'm gonna go with enjoyable but forgettable. It was okay. I mean, it was good. I'm like kind of confused over my feelings for this book. I thought it was interesting. The first like 2 pages of the book, like this woman is out jogging and she gets hit, like in a hit and run. It starts off like that, and it's about this like little girl who goes missing, but then she shows up back into the town where like her family lives. I do like this book because it's a lot about women, and honestly it is a crime against a woman, but it's just female centered. Like your main characters are women, your side characters are women. That's a big thing that I remember about this book. The plot twist, or like the main secret, I did not guess, so obviously that's points for this book. It's more of a kind of a suburban type of book where there's like, you know, neighbors trying to figure out what happened, and there's the mystery of this little girl who like returned home. So if that's of any interest to you, definitely recommend it. Sharp Objects. I'm gonna go also enjoyable but forgettable. I mean, it has a TV show adaptation because it was so good. The last 5 pages of this book will have your jaw dropped, is all I will say. All right, we only have a few more left, so let's just keep going. Next up is Where the Crawdads Sing. I'm gonna go ahead and also throw this up here on the second tier. This I read a long time ago. It is a Reese's Book Club pick. This one is more of a historical fiction type of mystery thriller. This one is definitely heavier on the mystery element. It's about this woman. I'm sure by this point you guys have either read, heard, or watched Where the Crawdads Sing, but I did want to include it because to me, it was one of those books that really got me back into reading, and when I finished reading it, I could not fathom it not being like a movie or a TV show, just because the storytelling was so good, and I definitely was able to craft like a beautiful setting in my head. So for those reasons alone, I would definitely recommend it. But I just remember too the plot twist at the end, whatever ended up happening, I did not expect, I did not guess. It's about a woman who's kind of a marsh girl is how she's described. She lives in like the swamps, and there is a murder of like a popular teenage boy that she was romantically linked with, and so obviously immediately everybody thinks it was her. She ends up actually going to jail, and so we kind of get like, I don't remember if it's dual POV or dual timelines, but I know we get the kind of perspective of her being in jail, trying to presume her innocence, and then the story of what actually happened. I definitely recommend this one. I do still think about it. Again, if you want type of book that you can really kind of imagine in your head and be creative with, I would recommend this one. Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I'm gonna throw this up on Changed My Reading Life. Oh, also, I don't know if I mentioned, but I added another book on here at the very end. We'll get to it, but we're gonna save it for last. Anyway, Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter is another one of those books that is very graphic and kind of disturbing. But again, sometimes you just need those types of thrillers. This one specifically is about 3 sisters. One of them goes missing, and it's kind of the aftermath, the ramifications of that, and the life of the other 2 sisters coping with the disappearance of their 3rd sister. And the 2 remaining sisters could not be more different. One of them is like a businesswoman, she's wealthy. The other one is a mother who's living in the suburbs, who's kind of just struggling to get by. And they don't really talk to each other until something happens. They kind of get pushed together, and they're determined to find out what happened to their sister. And I absolutely did not expect where this book was going. One of those thrillers that actually had a really rich plot. I feel like it is slightly longer than other thriller mysteries that I have read, but I just think with the plot that it had, it was very well deserved, and I still really enjoyed it, and I do think about it, and I do recommend it. Lisa Jewell, None of This Is True. I'm kind of in between these 2 ranks for this one. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it here, I guess, for now. I honestly feel like I was going more towards the def recommend because it is so popular and so hyped up, but I don't want to fall into that, and I want to just be really honest with how I felt about these books. And None of This Is True, it was really good. It had like a podcast element, which I feel like is the #1 kind of thing everyone talks about when referring to this book, and I definitely enjoyed that. But besides that, I feel it wasn't lackluster. I wouldn't say those words, but I just feel like it wasn't anything too crazy that I didn't like fully not expect. I did like the plot. I thought the pacing was great, but I don't ever really think about it. I do see it everywhere, so for those reasons I think about it. But if it wasn't super popular, I quite frankly don't think I would think too much about it, and the cover is very memorable, so I feel like that's also why I think about it, if that makes sense. First Lie Wins. I'm gonna go with It Was I did not love this book. I will say I listened to this book via audiobook, and maybe that was not a good idea because this book definitely has lots of like little intricacies, and it was kind of complex. This woman in this book is also not a scam artist, but she takes on different like characters and tries to like, you know, befriend people and make her living that way. And I would just kind of start getting confused as to where we were in the plot, in the story, who she was at this point, what time frame we were in, because it was dual timeline. And towards the end, I feel like I just don't really even know what the heck happened. So for those reasons alone, it was aight for me. One of those books that's super highly rated, very popular, but if it weren't for those reasons, I don't think I would have even read it in the first place, and I don't necessarily recommend it. Last but not least, Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulik. I saved this for last because I couldn't believe that I didn't have it on the list, and I'm gonna throw it up at the very top because I absolutely loved this book. This book was a 5-star read for me. It's about a woman who is a nanny for this like suburban family, and she has to take care of this like 3 or 4-year-old little boy, but this little boy is drawing very peculiar drawings, and we actually get those drawings in the book, so that's a major selling point for me. I feel like that really changed the story and really engaged me. The drawings are creepy and they're kind of sinister, and you get to see that, so it's very engaging. Absolutely the perfect read for like October, and I recommend this book to anyone and everyone because it is one of my favorite thriller mysteries. The little town that this like book is taking place in is super adorable, and it was kind of funny because in my head I was picturing this town as super cute. There's like little cafes, little shops, little bookstores, but at the end of the day, this is a thriller mystery that's kind of like creepy. So it was just funny having those two like different sides of the spectrum being reflected in one book. Quite honestly, I loved how it wrapped up. A lot of people are not a fan of kind of like the last third of the book. Lots of stuff does happen. It is one of those endings that's a bit far-fetched, but in my opinion, this is one that I actually bought and I do believe. I think that's gonna be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. There was quite a lot of books on here. I have read more thriller mysteries. I plan on reading more. This is like my second favorite genre ever, so I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, maybe I'll do a part 2, but for now, that's gonna be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.